Imagine this. You pull into your driveway after a quick grocery run, expecting to see your kid sketching in the backyard, only to find her chained and dangling from a fence like some forgotten prisoner from a dark fairy tale. Your heart plummets. Your blood surges with fury, and standing there smirking like she's just hit the jackpot is the self-crowned queen of the neighborhood. That's the gut-wrenching reality I, Jack Thompson, faced when I discovered my daughter Lily at the mercy of our cul-de-sac's tyrant, Karen, aka Linda. What would you do if someone dared treat your loved one that way? Stay with me, because I transformed this horror into a masterclass of sweet legal payback. Let me paint the picture. I'm a 42-year-old single dad, a former software engineer who ditched the corporate grind for freelance work to be there for Lily, my 12-year-old daughter. She's my everything, her infectious laugh, her sharp wit, and her painting skills that could rival Picasso's. She also navigates life in a wheelchair due to a mobility disability, but let me tell you, her spirit outshines 1,000 Karens any day. 6 months ago, we moved to this postcard-perfect suburban neighborhood just outside Atlanta, Georgia, chasing the American dream of a peaceful life, a good school, and maybe some friendly faces. Spoiler alert, we snagged 2 out of 3. Our neighborhood looks like it leapt straight out of a Hallmark movie. Which city of the United States are you watching from? Drop a comment and share with us if you have any confrontation with the HOA. We will narrate your story on our channel. Manicured lawns, white picket fences, kids on bikes. But beneath the surface, it's a pressure cooker, and the steam comes from one woman, Linda, the 55-year-old ringleader of the so-called Neighborhood Watch Committee. Linda is the kind of person who measures your grass with a ruler and sends you a typed letter if it's half an inch too long. She's got a perm so tight it could double as a helmet, a clipboard that's practically glued to her hand, and a voice that sounds like a cat stuck in a blender. To her, every mailbox color, every curtain pattern, every blade of grass is a battleground, and she's Napoleon in a floral blouse. From the moment we moved in, Linda had us in her crosshairs. Our first week, I got a letter on official Neighborhood Watch letterhead, no less claiming Lily's wheelchair was soiling the communal walkway. Soiling like my kid was dragging mud across a red carpet. I ignored it, thinking it was a one-off. Big mistake. A week later, Linda knocked on my door, her clipboard trembling with righteous fury, demanding I replace our garage door because its shade of blue was one hue off the approved palette. I'm no pushover, but I was new. Lily was still adjusting, so I smiled, nodded, and promised to look into it. That's when I learned rule number 1 of dealing with Linda. Compliance only makes her hungrier. Things escalated fast. Linda started patrolling our street like a sheriff in a bad western, her sneakers squeaking with every step, her eyes scanning for infractions. She'd stopped by our house unannounced, peering into our yard, scribbling notes like she was auditioning for the FBI. Once I caught her sniffing our recycling bin, sniffing it to check if we'd sorted our plastics correctly. I tried to keep the peace, mostly for Lily's sake. She'd already dealt with enough stares and whispers at school. She didn't need drama at home, but Linda wasn't just annoying, she was relentless. Every week brought a new complaint. Our mailbox was too shiny, our garden gnomes were tasteless, our welcome mat was unwelcoming. I started calling her Neighborhood Watch, Karen behind her back. And trust me, the name fit like a glove. The real trouble started with our backyard fence. It's a simple wooden thing, barely 6 feet tall, perfect for keeping Lily's art supplies from blowing into the neighbor's yard. But Linda, she decided it was her personal vendetta. One sweltering July afternoon, she marched up to my porch, her face redder than a tomato, and slapped a citation on my door. The crime. Our fence was 1 in taller than the neighborhood watch's sacred height limit. 1 in. I explained I'd fix it when I had time. Between work, doctor's appointments, and helping Lily with her physical therapy, I wasn't exactly swimming in free hours. Linda didn't care. Rules are rules, Mr. Thompson, she snapped, her voice dripping with fake pity. If you can't comply, there will be consequences. I thought she meant a fine. I was wrong. Dead wrong. Over. The next few weeks, Linda's harassment went from petty to personal. She'd linger outside our house, snapping photos of Lily painting in the front yard, muttering about property value violations. She'd corner me at the mailbox, lecturing me on community standards while her perfume, a mix of mothballs and regret, choked the air. I kept my cool, but inside I was simmering. Lily noticed. Dad, why's that lady so mean? She asked one night, her voice small. I hugged her tight and said, some people just love power, kiddo. Don't worry, we'll figure it out. But I didn't have a plan yet. Then came the day that changed everything. I'd popped out to grab some groceries, leaving Lily in the backyard with her sketchbook. She loves drawing out there, the breeze ruffling her hair, the birds chirping like they're cheering her on. I was gone maybe 30 minutes. When I pulled into the driveway, I heard her crying, soft, scared sobs that hit me like a punch to the gut. I ran to the backyard and stopped dead. There was Lily, my brave, beautiful girl, chained to the fence. Her body hoisted just high enough that her toes barely touched the ground. A rusty chain looped around her waist, glinting in the sun, locked tight to the wooden slats. And standing there, arms crossed, was Linda, her lips curled into a smirk that screamed, I win. I don't know how I didn't lose it right then. Every instinct screamed to tear that chain off and give Linda a piece of my mind or my fist. But Lily was watching, her eyes wide with fear, and I knew I had to stay calm for her. I got her down, held her close, and whispered, You're okay, sweetheart. I'm here. Linda had the nerve to lecture me about fence violations while I comforted my daughter. That's when I decided no lawsuits, no shouting matches. I was going to make Linda regret this in a way she'd never forget. Hey, if you're as fired up as I was, let me know where you're watching from today. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to join our growing community. Trust me, you'll want to see how this plays out. So, there I was, Jack Thompson, single dad and unofficial punching bag of Neighborhood Watch, Karen Linda, the perm-wearing terror of our Atlanta suburb. After she chained my daughter Lily to a fence like some deranged medieval landlord, I knew I couldn't just sit back and take it. But taking down a tyrant like Linda wasn't going to be easy. She had the neighborhood on a leash, a Facebook group full of her minions, and a knack for dodging consequences. I needed to play this smart, gather evidence, and build a case that would make her crumble. What followed was a series of run-ins with Linda that pushed me closer to the edge, each one worse than the last until she finally crossed a line so vile it lit the fuse for my revenge. It started with a piece of paper that looked like it was typed on a typewriter. From 1985, I found it taped to my front door one morning, the words notice of violation screaming in bold red ink. Linda, in her infinite wisdom, had decided our backyard fence. Yes, the same one she'd later use as Lily's personal torture device was 1 in too tall. 1 in. I'm no carpenter, but I'm pretty sure the Founding Fathers didn't write the Constitution to protect us from slightly tall fences. The notice demanded I pay a $500 fine to the Neighborhood Watch Committee or face further action. Could practically hear Linda's nasal cackle as I read it. I called her, hoping to reason with the beast. Linda, I said, keeping my voice calmer than a yoga instructor on Xanax. I'll fix the fence, but I need a couple weeks. Lily's got therapy appointments and I'm swamped with work, her response. A huff so loud it could have blown out my eardrums. Rules are rules, Mr. Thompson. If you can't comply, we'll have to escalate. Perhaps a lien on your property, a lien for an inch of wood. I pictured her sitting in her living room surrounded by porcelain cats, plotting my financial ruinade that fine $500 I could have spent on art supplies for Lily just to buy some time. But as I Venmo-D'd the money to the neighborhood watch's shady account, I started wondering, where was all this cash going? Linda's new floral muumuu wasn't that expensive. If the fine was a jab, the next punch hit way below the belt. A week later, I was helping Lily set up her easel in the front yard. She loves painting outside. The sunlight makes her watercolors pop, and the neighbors' kids sometimes stop by to chat. It's her happy place. Enter Linda stomping down the sidewalk like a T-Rex in orthopedic shoes. Her phone held up like she was filming a blockbuster. "What's this?" she barked, zooming in on Lily's wheelchair. "This contraption is ruining the communal lawn." Lily froze her paintbrush, hovering mid-air, a drop of blue splattering on her jeans. I stepped in front of her, my jaw so tight I could have cracked a walnut. "Linda, she's painting. She's not hurting anyone." But Linda was on a roll, her voice rising like a siren. "Property values, Mr. Thompson. This is a neighborhood, not a playground." For she trailed off, gesturing at Lily's wheelchair like it was a pile of garbage. Before I could fire back, she stormed off, leaving a cloud of cheap perfume and malice. That night, I checked the Neighborhood Watch Facebook group. There it was, a shaky video of Lily painting posted by Linda with the caption, "Parents need to control their children. Wheelchairs damage our lawns." The comments were a dumpster fire. Some neighbors defended Lily, but others piled on, saying things like, "Kids these days have no respect, and why can't they stay inside?" Lily saw it before I could delete the app from her tablet. She didn't cry, but her voice was so small, it broke me. "Dad, am I a problem?" I hugged her tight, swearing. I'd never let Linda make her feel like that again. That's when I ordered a set of security cameras. Nothing fancy, just enough to catch Linda in the act. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd be ready. The cameras were my secret weapon, and boy did they deliver. A few days after the Facebook fiasco, I was reviewing footage over coffee when I saw something that made my jaw drop. There was Linda at 6 a.m. sneaking into my backyard like a budget ninja. She was wearing a tracksuit that looked like it was designed by a colorblind clown creeping around my fence with a tape measure. She didn't stop there. She poked at my flower beds, sniffed my compost bin. "Why, Linda? Why?" And get this, dumped a bag of rotting banana peels into my garden. The woman literally brought trash to frame me for a violation. I saved the footage, my heart pounding like I'd just cracked a Da Vinci Code. I showed it to Maria, the tamale queen, next door, and Tom, the lawyer who'd had his own run-ins with Linda's clipboard. Maria's eyes widened as she watched Dio's meal. "She's loca. She did the same to my rose bushes last year." Tom, sipping a beer, shook his head. "That's trespassing, Jack, and tampering with property. You've got her on tape, but we need more to make it stick." They agreed to help, but only if we played it smart. Linda had a way of twisting things, and nobody wanted to be her next target. I felt like I was assembling the Avengers, but instead of capes, we had coffee, tamales, and a grudge. Then came the day that turned my simmer into a full-blown boil. It was a Saturday afternoon, hot as Satan's armpit. I'd run to the store for milk and cereal, leaving Lily in the backyard with her sketchbook. She was working on a painting of a bird. She'd seen a cardinal, bright red, like her spirit. I was gone, 30 minutes tops. When I got back, I heard her. Before I saw her sobs, raw and terrified, cutting through the hum of seekers, I dropped the grocery bag's milk carton bursting on the driveway and sprinted to the backyard. There was Lily, my brave, beautiful girl, chained to the fence like a prop in a horror movie. Linda had looped a rusty chain around her waist, hoisting her just high enough that her toes grazed the dirt. Her wheelchair tipped over in the grass. Lily's face was streaked with tears, her sketchbook crumpled at her feet. And Linda, she stood there, hands on hips, her perm glistening with sweat, lecturing like she was teaching a class on cruelty. "This is what happens when you ignore the rules, young lady," she snapped. "Your father needs to learn. I don't know how I didn't lose it." My vision went red. My fists clenched so hard my nails drew blood. But Lily's eyes locked on mine, pleading, and I knew I had to stay calm for her. I rushed over, fumbling with the chain's padlock, my hands shaking as I freed her. "It's okay, sweetheart," I whispered, pulling her into my arms. "I've got you!" Linda had the gall to keep talking, ranting about fence violations and disrespect. I turned to her, my voice low and cold. "Get off my property, Linda." "Now?" she huffed, muttered something about consequences, and waddled off her sneakers, squeaking like a warning. That night, I held Lily until she fell asleep, her cardinal painting clutched to her chest. She didn't say much, but her silence said everything. I checked the camera footage. Yep, it caught the whole thing clear as day. Linda's reign of terror was about to end. I wasn't just fighting for Lily anymore. I was fighting for every neighbor. She'd bullied every kid she'd shamed. It was time to call in the big guns and turn Linda's own game against her. Linda had gone too far, chaining my daughter Lily to a fence like some twisted suburban dictator. I'm Jack Thompson. And after months of her tyranny, fines, public shaming, trespassing, and now this unforgivable act, I was done playing nice. My security cameras had caught every second of her cruelty, along with her earlier stunts like dumping trash in my yard. I had evidence, I had rage, and I had a 12-year-old girl who deserved justice. But charging at Linda with a lawyer or a megaphone wouldn't work. She'd twist it, play the victim, and probably find me for disturbing the peace. No, I needed to outsmart her. Make her own arrogance her undoing. It was time to cook up a plan so clever it would make Machiavelli jealous, and I knew just the guy to help me pull it off. First, I needed reinforcements, and not just Maria's tamales or Tom's legal advice, though those were clutch. I dug through my contacts and found Mike, an old college buddy who'd spent 20 years as an FBI agent before retiring to a life of golf and bad Hawaiian shirts. Mike wasn't just a friend. He was a walking Rolodex of connections with a knack for sniffing out troublemakers like Linda. I called him up, pacing my kitchen while Lily slept, her cardinal painting still crumpled from that awful day. "Mike," I said, "I've got a situation. A neighbor went full psycho on my kid. I laid it all out, the fines, the Facebook shaming, the trash dumping, and the fence incident. I sent him the camera footage, and within minutes he was whistling through the phone. Jack, this isn't just petty chaining a kid. That's false imprisonment, maybe even assault. You've got a dead to rights." Mike's words were like a shot of espresso to my soul. He wasn't on active duty anymore, but he knew people, cops, lawyers, even a few reporters who loved a juicy story. "Don't go to court yet," he advised. "She'll lawyer up and drag it out. Hit her where it hurts her ego. Expose her publicly, legally, and make it sting." That's when the light bulb went off. Linda thrived on control, on being the untouchable queen of the neighborhood watch. What if I could turn her spotlight against her, make her the star of her own downfall? I needed a stage, an audience, and a trap she couldn't resist. Enter the greatest con I've ever pulled, a fake charity event. I pitched it to Maria and Tom over coffee, my hands waving like I was conducting an orchestra. "We'll call it a community fundraiser for kids with disabilities," I said. "We invite the whole neighborhood, play up the feel-good vibes and make it impossible for Linda to stay away. She'll show up to strut her stuff and that's when we drop the hammer." Maria raised an eyebrow. Her fork paused mid-tamale hammer. "What, you gonna whack her with a fence post?" I laughed. "No, Maria, evidence. We show everyone who she really is." Tom, ever the lawyer, nodded slowly. "It's risky, but if you've got the footage and keep it legal, it could work. Just don't let her smell the trap." The plan was simple but devious. I'd host the event in the community park with balloons, a podium, and a big screen for presentations. I'd pretend to be the perfect neighbor, even fixing that stupid fence to Linda's exact specifications to throw her off. Behind the scenes, I'd edit the camera footage into a highlight reel of Linda's greatest hits, sneaking into my yard, dumping trash and the knockout punch, chaining Lily to the fence. I'd show it at the event. Let the neighborhood see their queen for the monster she was to sweeten the pot. I'd make sure the fundraiser actually raised money for kids like Lily. Real good from Linda's evil. Maria offered to cater. Tom promised to bring his lawyer friends as guests, and Mike said he'd swing by not as an agent, but as a concerned donor with a few well-placed questions. It was like planning a heist, but instead of stealing gold, we were stealing Linda's throne. I spread the word fast, plastering flyers on every mailbox except Linda's to make her think she'd discovered the event herself. I knew her ego wouldn't let her miss a chance to lecture everyone about community spirit. Sure enough, a week before the event, she cornered me at the grocery store, her clipboard clutched like a shield. "Mr. Thompson," she said, her voice sweeter than a snake's hiss. "I hear you're hosting a little gathering. I'll be there to ensure it meets neighborhood watch standards." I bit back a grin. Wouldn't have it any other way. Linda, hook, line, and sinker. The day of the fundraiser arrived and the park was buzzing. Kids ran around with balloons. Maria's taco stand drew a crowd and neighbors mingled their usual tension, eased by free food and sunny weather. I was nervous, sweaty palms, heart racing. Nervous, but I kept it together, shaking hands and thanking people for coming. Lily was there too, in her favorite blue dress, painting mini canvases for the kids. She caught my eye and gave me a thumbs up, like she knew something big was coming. Then I saw her, Linda, strutting in like she owned the place, her floral dress, clashing with the universe, her phone already out to film violations. She made a beeline for me, smirking. "Nice effort, Mr. Thompson, but this event could use more oversight." I smiled so hard my face hurt. "Oh, Linda, you're about to get all the oversight you can handle." The moment came during my welcome speech. I stood at the podium, the big screen behind me, and started with the sappy stuff, thanking everyone, talking about kids like Lily who deserve support. The crowd was eating it up, clapping a few, even tearing up. Linda was off to the side filming, probably planning to post about my unapproved balloons. Then I dropped the bomb. "Before we start the auction," I said, my voice steady as steel, "I want to share a story about our community, about someone who's been watching us closely." I hit play on the remote, and the screen lit up with Linda's face. Creeping into my yard at dawn, dumping trash, measuring my fence like a maniac. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then came the footage of her chaining Lily, her voice barking. This is what happens when you ignore the rules. The park went dead.
silent like someone had sucked the air out of it.
Linda's phone dropped to her side, her face white as her picket fence. That's not, she stammered, but the crowd was already turning. Maria shouted, "You did that to a child!" Tom's lawyer buddy muttered about felony charges. Neighbors, who'd cowered under Linda's rule, started sharing their own stories. Fines, threats, midnight, mailbox inspections. Linda tried to bolt, but the crowd closed in. Not with pitchforks, but with questions, accusations, fury. She was trapped, her kingdom crumbling, and I hadn't even needed to raise my voice.
I leaned into the mic, calm as a summer breeze. This fundraiser is for kids, like my daughter, Linda. Kids you tried to break. Let's show them what a real community looks like. The crowd roared, and I knew we'd won, not just for Lily, but for
everyone Linda had bullied. But the best was yet to come. The park was a powder keg, and I'd just lit the match. I'm Jack Thompson, and I'd turned my fake charity fundraiser into a public execution of Neighborhood Watch, Karen Linda's reputation. The big screen behind me had just played the footage of her chaining my daughter Lily to a fence, her voice snarling about rules while the crowd gasped like they'd seen a ghost. Linda stood frozen, her floral dress wilting under the weight of 100 angry stares. Neighbors who'd tiptoed around her for years were now whispering, shouting, demanding answers. I could have stopped there, let the mob take her down, but I'm not a monster. I wanted her to feel the sting of her own medicine, legally, publicly, and oh so sweetly. And I had one more ace up my sleeve, my old buddy Mike, the retired FBI agent, with a grin sharper than a switchblade, just as Linda started stammering excuses. This is a misunderstanding. He edited that video. The crowd parted and in strolled, Mike looking like he'd just stepped off a golf course in a loud Hawaiian shirt and aviators. He wasn't here as an agent, just a concerned donor, but his presence hit like a thunderclap. He sauntered to the podium, clapped a hand on my shoulder, and took the mic. "Folks," he said, his voice smooth as bourbon,
I've seen a lot in my career, but chaining a kid to a fence, that's not just mean. It's illegal. False imprisonment, assault, you name it. He turned to Linda, his smile cold enough to freeze her perm. Care to explain, Mum? Or should I call
some friends at the precinct to sort this out? The crowd erupted a mix of cheers and jeers. Linda's face went from white to green, her clipboard clattering to the ground. She tried to sputter a defense. I was protecting property values, but it was like tossing a paper towel into a hurricane. Maria, the tamale queen, yelled, "You call bullying a child protection?" Tom's lawyer, Buddy, started listing statutes, his voice cutting through the noise. Neighbors piled on, spilling stories of Linda's reign of terror, fines for ugly flower pots, threats over kids' chalk drawings, even a rumor she'd reported someone's cat for loitering. Linda shrank her empire of fear, crumbling faster than her overbaked castles. I took the mic back, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. This fundraiser, I said, wasn't just about exposing one person. It's about kids like my Lily who deserve to feel safe in their own neighborhood. I gestured to the donation table piled high with checks and cash from neighbors who'd rallied behind us.
Every penny here goes to families with disabled kids, therapy equipment, whatever they need. That's what a real community does, Linda. The crowd roared, clapping so loud it drowned out her pathetic whimpers. Linda grabbed her purse and bolted,
tripping over a balloon string as she fled her sneakers, squeaking into the distance. It was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. That wasn't the end of it. The footage from the event went viral. Someone, probably Tom, leaked it to a local news station. By Monday, Linda was under investigation for false imprisonment and trespassing. She showed up at my door a week later, her eyes puffy, her voice a defeated mumble. "I'm sorry," she said, handing me a check for $10,000 court-ordered restitution for Lily. I didn't say a word. I just took the check and closed the door. That money went straight to renovating our backyard into a wheelchair-accessible garden, complete with raised flower beds so Lily could plant her own sunflowers. The Neighborhood Watch Committee held an emergency meeting, voted Linda out, and elected Maria as chair. Her first act, scrapping every one of Linda's insane rules. No more fines for wrong mailbox colors. No more midnight lawn inspections. The neighborhood felt like it could breathe again. A month later, I was sitting in that new garden with Lily, the air sweet with blooming jasmine. She was painting a cardinal, like the one from that awful day, but this time it was soaring free. I watched her, my chest tight with pride. You know, I said I learned something from all this. Sometimes the best way to fight a bully isn't with anger, it's with smarts and a little help from friends. Lily grinned, her paintbrush flicking red onto her cheek. "Dad, next time I'm handling the Karen myself. I'll paint her mailbox pink." I laughed so hard I nearly fell off the bench. That's my girl. Unbreakable, even after everything. Looking back, I realized Linda thought she could control us, break us, because she had power. But power like hers, built on fear and petty rules, falls apart when you shine a light on it. We didn't just take her down, we built something better. The neighborhood's closer now with barbecues and kids' art shows instead of violation notices.
And Lily, she's not just painting, she's teaching other kids to draw, showing them they can create beauty no matter what anyone says.
So, here's my challenge to you. Have you ever dealt with a Karen in your life? Maybe a boss, a neighbor, or some clipboard-wielding tyrant? Drop your story in the comments. I'm dying to hear it. If you loved watching Linda get what she deserved, hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe for more tales of justice served with a side of sass. Next video, we're diving into the story of a nosy neighbor who thought he could spy on my barbecue until I turned his binoculars back on him. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Let's keep this community growing, and together we'll show every Karen out there that they can't